here. J.R. Shepard dives down to the inside, trying to see if he's able to get a little bit of that tack that Brandon Proudfoot has been getting up at the front of the field. 10 laps to go here at Port Royal.
Yeah, definitely not making a huge ground here on Brian. Brian's able to maintain that gap.
It's big Justin Morton back into second with J.R. Shepard somehow taking over the lead. I have no idea.
These guys, you see Scott kind of using up all that momentum. Got to enter the corner wide. I expected him to kind of cut back low. See lap car down on the inside. George overshoots the corner. Scott puts that car just where he needs to on the middle. It's going to be a drag race through the kink. Thomas George gets loose. Scott Eckridge has the opportunity to come home with a win right now. Side-by-side drag race.
Oh, wow.
Scott Eckridge, 5/1000ths of a second. Welcomes you to the Chuckles. I'm in danger. 250 can possibly go to the outside. He does go to the outside of Ricky Harden. Tries a slide draft him. Harden goes up the track. Now back down to the bottom. Gets a huge push from Tommy Ryan at the start finish. It's going to be Thomas George.
Running the high line, trying to make that
got
pass.
Loose off turn 4.
In the grass goes the 6 car, and they were side by side, 2 by 2 here.
Still Scott Eckridge winning the last race of the season and the championship.
Jeff Ford definitely getting the championship for season 2.
Give it up for Thomas George, winning the race and the championship. George overshoots the corner. Scott puts that car just where he needs to on the middle. It's going to be a drag race through the kink. The start of a new season brings a new opportunity to add your name to the list of previous Daytona champions. A list of the stock car racing elite from Petty to Earnhardt, from Gordon to Andretti. A win here can elevate your name to that of legends. Hello and welcome to the beginning of another PGRL season and the Team Watson Racing Setups 250 from Daytona International Speedway live on the Virtual Grip Network. I'm Austin Belke, joined by J.R. Shepard and Kenny Kibbe in the booth, with our director Ryan Seneker in the production trailer and producer Lowell Jewell behind the scenes. You can see the weather information for tonight's race on your screen. A cool 78 degrees Fahrenheit, balmy, you might say, 55% humidity. But JR, what can you tell us about the World Center of Racing?
Well, Austin, this is Daytona. The Super Bowl of stock car auto racing happens right here. This place is a 2.5-mile super speedway that boasts 31 degrees of banking in the corners, as well as 18 degrees on the front tri-oval. However, one of the most treacherous places tonight on this racetrack won't be in the corners. It will be on the back straightaway. This is where these drivers will be bump drafting the hardest to try to generate a run and pass their competitors back there on the back stretch. So the only problem with that, these cars can get very light on that straightaway, and the wrong push will send the car ahead of you right around very quickly. This can lead to the big one and take a lot of cars out of contention very quickly. So this is something we'll be watching here tonight for sure. But Austin, this is the race everybody wants to win to start off the season. If you do, you can carry that momentum with you throughout the season. The only question is, who will be the big winner here tonight?
Thank you, JR. We'll take a moment here to talk to our Mahan Speed Laboratories. You won a Draw Pull Award. Winner today, Angel Jamie. Angel, you got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Hey, you're making your series debut here tonight. You got any goals heading into this race and the rest of the season as a whole?
Win.
I like it. Really simple, really simple. Second question for today. You're starting up front, so your game plan at the beginning is a little bit easier for you, but as you go through the rest of the race, is your game plan to stay up front if you're there, or fall a bit of back right around maybe until the rest of the race?
The goal for tonight is really to keep myself in the top 5. The goal for me primarily is to keep the track position, to get stage points at the end of lap 50, but as well as take the trophy home at lap 100.
Certainly. Well, Angel, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Best of luck in the race.
Appreciate it, man.
That was Angel Jamie, driver of the number 4 car. He's starting on pole for tonight. It looks like now, though, Kenny, you got any keys for victory for us?
Yeah, guys, so tonight it's going to be a 100-lap affair, a 250-miler. It's a decently long race. 5 sets of tires for these teams total. A 75% fuel limit will bring these cars to about a 30-lap fuel run, so a couple pit stops will be needed for fuel. And tires will matter a little bit more than you might think here. We'll touch on that a little bit later. But the keys to the race: time your runs. The huge runs get mounted here in the draft. A lot of speed differential when you can really get organized in there. So you really have to manage your blocks, manage your runs, make the right moves at the right time. That's the key to drafting racing. And don't lose the draft. You'll see some drivers drop to the back and kind of hang out at the back for a while, but you have to make sure you don't completely lose the draft unless they plan on a caution at some point. Sometimes you can get lucky, but other times when the race goes green, those drivers who decide to fall back can never have a chance to catch back up. And also, scoring stage points, lap 50. There will be no stage caution, but there will be stage points handed out to the top 10 in the running order at that time, which is a nice, interesting mechanic added to PGRL. That'll definitely play a factor in the championship this year. And lastly, the big one is survive. Just avoid the big ones, be there at the end. We sometimes see upset winners here, and we might see one today.
Thanks, Kenny. We'll now go to your starting lineup. Angel Jamie, the man we just talked to, starts on pole, followed by Devin Cannon, who starts his outside in second. Woody Mahan rolls off in third, followed by Cy Ferris, who starts in fourth. Scott Eckridge rounds out the top 5, followed by Chris Stouffer, who lines up in sixth. Clarence Bonner lines up in seventh, followed by William Farmer in eighth. Ron Hart starts ninth. Joe Branch rounds out the top 10 starting spots, followed by Matthew Wheeler, who rolls off in 11th. Cody Dempster is going to start in 12th, followed by Adam Hoagland in 13th. Cosmin Ioannishiu starts in 14th, followed by Norm Pelletier, the man who won this race last year, in 15th. Doug Roth starts in 16th, followed by Brian Greenlee in 17th. Mike Rasmus is going to line up in 18th, followed by Jason Galvin and Justin Richter, who round out the top 20.
Yeah, starting 21st, we have Terry Marinero tonight. 22nd, Shane Parrish. Ed Fowler rolls off 23rd. Chris Lanini, 24th. Isaiah Dupre will be 25th. Adam Jersky, 26th. 27th, Mark Herzog. Tyler Graff, 28th. Tim Weinkoff rolling off 29th. Brady Cure will roll off in 30th. Alex Gratz will be 31st. Kevin Bartelt being 32nd. We're going to roll back to you, Austin.
Yes, sir. Pace car goes down pit road. Green flag flies here at the start of a new pretty good racing league season at Daytona. Check the green flag now waving over the 2 drivers starting on the front row. Angel Jamie on the inside, Devin Cannon on the outside. They're side by side as they roll into turns 1 and 2. Big push there for Devin Cannon from Cy Ferris just behind. It looks like those 2 drivers want to start to get a line formed up there. Go to the front, JR. Lots of pushing going on.
Yeah, definitely lots of pushing going on. Right now, these guys want to be a little careful. They want to fill out their cars, see what they've got. They want to see how these runs develop. But you can see these guys are already switching lanes down the back straightaway, trying to figure out which one of those lanes is going to be the best right now.
Yeah, Cy Ferris shoots down to the bottom. We'll see if that number 4 car, if Angel Jamie can get up to him, give him a push. And how about that car third in line on the bottom, Woody Mahan? He's one of those better plate drivers than most.
Definitely one of the better plate drivers, coming off some momentum toward the back half of the season last year. So definitely looking to have a good run, already up into that 3rd place.
Yeah, how about that guy 4th in line on the bottom, Scott Eckridge, as the top line starts to really flounder their opportunity right now to see if they want to lead any laps. Kenny, I want to ask you a question. When you've run 2 Daytona 500s, as it were, so far. Was the bottom line better? Do you really like to run the top more?
Well, the bottom was really, really good on typically on the restarts, but the top seemed to have the longevity. You don't have to turn the wheel so much on the top line. You don't get it checked up as much on the top line, and you also don't have to deal with cars scraping on the apron. That's easier to do than you might think. Some cars might hit that apron and really check up that bottom line. So I prefer the top. However, the bottom is a lot easier to avoid wrecks when you're able to use the apron to your advantage when wrecks happen up in front. So top could be faster, but the bottom could be safer in the long haul.
Yeah, my mind always goes back to a quote Kevin Harvick said on the radio to his spotter Timmy Fido a couple years ago. He said, if you're on the top and a wreck comes out, you're kind of screwed. If you're on the bottom, you've got some options. Cy Ferris is still on the bottom in that number 44 Ford Mustang. Air Canada down the side. Big old push right here from Angel Jamie, trying to get that car as far towards the front as he possibly can. Look just now, though, that top line really starting to come in. You've got the 7 car. Looks like Chris Stouffer giving a big push there to the 88 machine of Devin Cannon.
Yeah, and one thing we haven't talked about, guys, we have a whole lot of new drivers in PGRL this season, and with that comes a lot of new teams. A lot of these guys right now, they're going to be working their way back to wherever their teammates are so they can kind of work together, and that's why you're kind of seeing guys switch lanes back and forth. We got a change for the lead going into turn 1 here.
Yeah, going into turn 1, Angel Jamie saw how big a run Devin Cannon was going to get up top, ducked out from behind C. Ferris, and he got a big old push down to the front. You can see just how much momentum that bottom line lost. Scott Eckridge there on the bottom jumping out, saying this is getting a little bit too crazy for me right now. So he's going to go all the way down to the bottom of the track, cycle back towards the back of the pack. Up at the front of the field, though, it's still Angel Jamie up on the high line this time.
Yeah, the high line's starting to really develop there. Everybody's starting to move up into that lane. That's why it's becoming the one that's leading this pack right now. The inside lane's starting to get fewer and fewer people running in it. And then, like you said, a lot of guys jumped out down the back straightaway. Scott Eckridge, extremely smart. He sees what's going on. He wants to go back and ride and save his car for the end.
A lot different than the situation we had last time at Daytona. These cars were all new. None of the drivers are really familiar with racing them against each other. Of course, back then, these races were run the Thursday before the main event, so it was really hard to tell just how the Daytona 500 was going to go down and how well these cars could take crashing. So these cars didn't just have unlimited fast repairs, they had regenerative damage. So if you got in a wreck one lap, you keep rolling around here, the car would progressively repair itself. So pretty much everybody was running towards the end of the race. This year, not so much. There's not even one fast repair like we were seeing for so much of last year's event. So this time, Kenny, if you get in a wreck, you're pretty much done for the rest of the day.
Yeah, so you really do have to kind of pick your own battles here. Do you want to run up front? Do you want to run towards the back? And we've all experienced either of those strategies either working or not working. It's kind of a lottery in some respects. But if I'm a driver that's up in this draft, I do want to kind of be up here and racing a little bit, get a feel for the rest of the drivers, what they're acting like. But, you know, if things get too crazy too early on, you might want to think about dropping towards the back.
88 car now. Devin Cannon goes up to the front of the field, got a big push from that 7 car up top of Christopher, comes down right in front of that number 4 car, Angel Jamie. He's going to be on the bottom line right now and lead this lap number 7 of 100. These laps take a while to click by, but boy, they last forever if you're down in the pit road getting that damage repaired. And Kenny, how do you approach this race given that you only have that one, you don't have any fast repairs, but there's stage points in the middle, and of course you always score points at the end of this race. Is there a strategy of maybe try from lap 40 to 50, fall to the back, and try again at lap 90?
Well, remember too, we will be pitting for fuel before that stage ends, so it kind of depends on that. If we're going to have kind of a green flag run here, you got to try to stay up towards the front as long as you can and pit with a good group of organized drivers and then race from there on. So this is almost kind of 2 races into one here to that stage end. You got the first fuel run and then the second one to lap 50. And it's going to kind of you have to kind of see where you're at when that fuel run ends and kind of play it from there.
Up at the front of the field, it's still that number 88 car of Devin Cannon. He continues to get big pushes every now and again from Angel Jamie just behind him. Those two have done a pretty good job right now to really separate themselves from the rest of the field. But, JR, I have to imagine at some point they're going to get such a huge lead that they're just going to be swallowed up and passed almost immediately when the rest of the field catches up to them.
Yeah, you could see how quickly their lead went away. You see the 7 car, Christopher, he could have made that move, decided not to, decided to stay right there in line. But that's the thing with this generation of car. You can get 2 cars together, they can really get out to a big lead for about a lap, and then it's just like you stall out and the pack is able to just swallow you up, like you said. So it's not something you want to do definitely at the end of the race because you will be a sitting duck.
1 car all the way up at the top going a lap down. That's the number 14 machine. He stays high, wide, and handsome to allow the rest of the field to go underneath him. Up at the front of the field, it's still Devin Cannon. But watch out for this run here. Joe Branch in this 28 machine. He's getting help right now from the NA4 car of Cosmin Ioannishiu. And look out behind him. There's that number 03, Justin Rector, just behind him. We saw Justin for a lot of last season. Really came on strong towards the end of it.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of guys are going to continue to watch.
There's a big wreck in the back of the pack. Caution is out. See a couple cars going all sorts of every direction there. It looked like the wreck happened maybe about 20th place in behind. We'll see if we can't get a replay. Sorry to cut you off there, JR.
Nope, you're good. We're going to see what we can find on the replay here, what the cause of this incident was.
Yes, well, the epicenter of this wreck, guys, was actually G.D. Brown, the lap car. Going into turn 3, we said he was up high trying to let cars by. He actually got too high and scraped the outside wall, which led to him getting out of shape. And Vincent Crowe, the 56 car, was the next car, or Norm Pelletier, I'm sorry, 56 was the next car in behind. He got checked up, ran into the back of him, and it was just a chain reaction. But we'll queue up the replay, and you guys will see what I'm talking about here. But guys, we talk about 3 wide at Daytona and how it's so much more difficult. Here we go. There's the chain reaction. The wreck's already kind of started at this point. If we could back it up just a tad further than that, we'll get a good look at it. But you see G.D. Brown here. See the entry to turn 3, the green car there. He enters into turn 3 and he scrapes that outside wall. And Norm Pelletier does not quite check up quite in time as Grant Brown comes down in front of him. And he runs into the back and just kind of causes this chain reaction. This wreck actually could have been a lot bigger than it ended up being here. But we're under caution for the first time in lap 10.
And that's a couple hard licks, a lot of junked up race cars just from that. So, but Kenny, it looks like a couple cars are coming down onto pit road. In terms of fuel, though, I can't imagine this will set them up to make it to the end of the stage on fuel, would it?
No, I don't think so. It's about a 30-lap run for fuel, and pitting on lap 10 here, it'll only get you to, it'll probably give them maybe close to lap 45 with caution laps. So, yeah, this will definitely throw kind of a wrench into things. But I think there's some drivers that are really, they're more aiming towards that checkered flag at the end as opposed to the stage points, and just wherever they land at the stage is wherever they fall.
And just to touch on this one more time so we don't confuse the viewers at home, the fuel limit here is limited to that 75% of a full tank of fuel. So even if you ran the iRacing Daytona 500, if you're watching some of the podium broadcast, or even the real-life Daytona 500, we're not quite at that 40-some laps that you might be used to. So that's why we're missing that extra quarter of a tank of fuel. But regardless, though, I think we'll take a quick caution. We'll be right back after these messages.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the Team Watson Racing Setups 250 here at Daytona International Speedway. Team Watson Racing Setups is not the only setup shop on iRacing, but you sure will feel like it is after you subscribe. After just one taste of their builders' magic-like abilities, you'll wonder why you went anywhere else before. A down-to-earth team for down-to-earth drivers, TWRS will improve your speed, promote your success, and do so while being light on your wallet. Visit TeamWatsonRacing.com to subscribe today for an easy $25 $5 a month for all NASCAR sets. Join the squad and come find out why TWRS has become the fastest growing setup shop in all of stock car racing. We can't wait to see you when green flag flies once again here at Daytona. The leader right now up at the front of the field, still Angel Jamie. We had quite a number of cars come down on pit road, but not quite everybody in the field. Looks like about 12th place on back came down pit road, I believe. Angel Jamie up at the front of the field. He's got Cosmin Ioanniscu just behind him, and then the 44 car, C. Fair, is right now in third. The bottom line formed up a lot better than the top.
Yeah, definitely. Justin Rector, he started out on that outside line and has already fallen way back. There's just a lot more cars developed on that bottom right now, and they are moving ahead.
See a lot more cars formed up on the bottom, but it really just depends which line gets formed up first. So you can see the first car up there on the top, another number 7 car, not quite Christopher, but he's on the bottom, just another car up there. But yeah, for the first like 10 or so cars right now, everybody is on the bottom, and Jerry, you kind of got to wonder, is this everybody maybe just getting in line and kind of riding around until they have the opportunity to score some stage points?
Yeah, it very well could be. That would be the smart thing to kind of do. We see it in the Daytona 500 every year. At some point, everybody kind of gets to a riding position, and with that first caution coming out, that kind of alerts the drivers, hey, we could be involved in the big one that takes us out, so let's just calm down, ride, and log some laps, and then we'll go racing when it comes stage point time.
Yeah, kind of a comeback, down-to-earth moment. Come to Jesus, as they say. Adam Jerski is the first car right now in the top lane. He's getting some help right there from the 88 car of Denman Cannon. How about the jerky man, Adam Jerski, doing a really good job in that 71 car. He started to get a lot faster at the tail end of last year, so hopefully he can carry some of that momentum into this season as well. I'd be pretty surprised if he wasn't one of those top 5 guys sort of fighting for the championship when it comes down to it, if he were to make all the races here.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Austin. There's a couple of guys like that, and Adam for sure is near the top of that list. And I think a lot of it just has to do with getting used to this car. It was brand new last season, a lot to get used to, and it's very different at each and every track that we go to, how you have to drive it, especially with that rack and pinion steering. So he was one of them that really caught on the most toward the end of the year.
See a big push right there from the 88 car of Devin Cannon up to the rear end of Adam Jerski. Now is the opportunity. Does he want to have back in line 4th place on the bottom, or does he want to keep going on the high side? Looks like C. Ferries is going to come up to block him. You'll see the 88 car of Devin Cannon go down to the bottom. Now there's another influx of drivers coming up here to the top. It looks like we're going to be too wide again. C. Ferries leading the top line. He's getting a lot of help right now from the 71 car of Adam Jerski. Up at the front of the field, though, on the bottom, it's still the number 4 car of Angel Jamie. Whoa, one car hard in the outside wall. That's C. Ferris. They're stacking up behind him. No caution yet.
Oh, there's going to be, Austin. There is a big wreck down the back straightaway. It looks like the green is still out, though, amazingly, but we have a lot of cars that are in the grass on the back straightaway.
Yeah, Kenny, if the cars are all... Oh, there's the caution. Okay.
Well, I was going to say, because of all the cars being on the apron and in the grass, that typically does not throw a caution at Daytona, but finally cars came up back across the track and they started wrecking again, and that led to the caution finally coming out, which actually will save some drivers.
Yeah, that was a big wreck. Talk about the big one. That might just be it here on lap number 16 of 100. So the caution comes out once again. We'll get a good look at the replay here. Maybe, Ryan, if we could get a view from a blimp or something so you could see how this all plays out. It did look like, though, Cy Ferris kind of started this big chain reaction, and then at that point it's really hard to check up, doing about a better part of, 180, 190 mile an hour, JR.
Yeah, I talked about it at the beginning of the show here that a lot of the wrecks will come on the back straightaway because of the hard pushing, and I believe we're going to see that a push from Adam Dursky just went just a little bit wrong. He was just a little off center when he did the push, and that caused Saif to go a little bit crooked. He got loose, caught it a couple of times, but ultimately got into the backstretch wall and then collected some cars because there's just nowhere for anybody to go. So yeah, when you really start pushing hard, these cars get light and they will move around quick on you.
Yeah, you could see just a chain reaction there. Drivers not able to check up quite in time. Look over towards the right side of your screen, looking for a 6 car. I don't know how, but Thomas George somehow made it through almost this entire wreck. Of course, most of it goes down to the bottom. Look at Thomas George, number 6, going just below the apron there. Scything this thing out. Probably gained a couple positions, too, before that caution came out.
Yeah, and one thing we probably forget, you see him maneuvering through there, being very, very calculated with what he was doing. But Thomas won 2 of these super speedway races last season, and once you won more than one, it kind of shows that you have some type of skill set when it comes to this type of racing. He's very good at it, so we expect him to be up toward the front. He's one of the guys that tends to ride toward the back, but obviously, these wrecks happen near him. He's able to get through them and find his way at the front at the end.
Certainly. Kenny, looked like a lot of drivers coming down pit road once again, kind of just topping off their fuel tanks, as it were.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that everybody will take tires every pit stop, but you might as well take fuel, even if it does put you, in the rear. It's just a safe strategy just to, have fuel topped off. And at this point, there might be quite a few drivers making some damage repair. I mean, those were two pretty, well, especially the second one, pretty large wreck there. It might be quite a few drivers out there fixing some damage. I want to touch on the beginning of that wreck as well. JR, the timing of that push, not only it was, top line and it was off-centered, but it was also at the very exit of turn 2, which is about the worst possible place. Entry and exit of the corners are about the worst place to get a push.
Yeah, exactly right, Ken. That's exactly when the car starts to unload and becomes very light, so you definitely need some time for that car to set, and then again, it's going to be light down the whole back straightaway anyway. You got to make sure that when you do those pushes, you're lined up and that you're not hitting the guy in front of you too hard. Just hitting them too hard can really move that car around as well. So yeah, that's exactly right. You do not want to make contact coming out of the corner or going into the next corner.
Lights are out atop the iRacing pace car, so the field now doubles up 2 by 2 throughout the entire field. So we get set to go green flag racing the next time by. Vincent Crowe currently in the lead. He's got Adam Plattel to his outside. Aiden Grates is in the 41 car. He's lined up in the 3rd position. Tyler Graff to his outside in the 4th. And then Angel Jamie lines up in 5th. 6th place right now, Devin Cannon. Mike Rasmus in 7th. Been a long time since we talked about old Mike Rasmus, Mr. Consistency. As it were last season, he's got Woody Mahan lining up to his outside. In 9th is Christopher, and Joe Branch rounds out the top 10. And guys, Vincent Crowe, how about him up at the front of the field, leading this thing? Pretty nice new paint scheme on that ride.
Yeah, definitely cool to see him back. He joined us in the booth for a few races last season, so cool to see him back, able to race, and he's giving himself a good showing right now up front. He's
able to lead a good amount of laps here before too long. I'll be really interested to see here, Kenny, which line forms up the fastest and takes off. I feel like, again, you mentioned at the top of the broadcast, it really just depends which line gets formed up the fastest is the one able to pull away immediately. And usually, though, it's the bottom, like you're saying?
Yeah, and especially if the leader picks the bottom, which looks like that is the case this time. But remember, in PGRL, leader does have lane choice, so sometimes you might see the leader pick the top side, which could give an advantage to the top line on the restart.
iRacing pace car makes the hard left turn down pit road, gives command of the field over to Vincent Crowe, gets ready to take the green flag once again. You see him start to put his foot down on the accelerator pedal. We'll see if Adam Littell slots in behind him in 2nd. Doesn't look like he's going to do that. That's going to allow for the 27 car of Aiden Grace to get right up to the back bumper of Vincent Crowe. And you can see both lines pretty formed up so far. Advantage right now to Vincent's on the bottom. You look at how much that 27 car is dancing around on the bottom. Some pretty big pushes there from the number 4 car, Angel Jamie. And JR, just how hard is it to get your bearings right when you're getting pushed from behind, especially in the middle of a corner like that?
Yeah, it's very tough, especially when you're not a lead car, so you're having to judge the corner based off of what you're seeing in front of you, that car in front of you, and then when you're getting hit, it is very hard to hang on to that car and not make contact with the guy ahead of you. That's what we saw down the back straightaway. The 4 car actually tried to push the 27 up to Vincent Crowe, but once he got there, you've got to back off. You do not want 3 cars locked together. That can create a huge mess.
Yeah, Twitch streamer by the name of Matt Malone coined the phrase I always like here, don't push the pusher, which means if you're 3rd line and some of the car ahead of you is pushing the car ahead of them, do not push that middle car, because that 9 times out of 10 is going to cause a very large wreck. You can see the bottom line formed up quite considerably well compared to the outside. One car just scraping the wall down the back stretch, but it just seems like for right now, Vincent Crowe, Adam Great's out to a big old lead here, and I kind of have to wonder too, Kenny, is it just the cars on the bottom being formed up more, or maybe is it just the inside line? It takes a while to come in, or less time compared to the outside, I should say.
It might be a little bit of both. I mean, sometimes it's kind of a common myth that it's like that people think the more cars in one line will end up being faster. That's the case when there's so few cars, but when both lines are relatively long, it's more about the organization and how close-knit each car is to each other. And now remember, the leader did restart on the bottom, so that was definitely going to help that line get a better jump in general. But looks like the top line's starting to come in. You got a huge run by a car about midway through the pack. That was William Farmer had a huge run on the top side, so the top line is starting to come in here.
Topside really starting to come in, especially down the backstretch. You saw the 88 car of Devin Cannon get a really good run. He went from about the 5th or 6th car back to now the 3rd car back on the outside. Little bit of contact through the tri-oval. The cars get really sketchy right there, JR.
Yeah, they definitely do. They're really light. You don't want to be near one another, but the one thing I'm really seeing here is that Devin Cannon is starting to do some side drafting, which is it's a tool you can use to kind of pull that guy that's beside you backwards, but it is very easy to cause contact here in iRacing. You can have netcode. A lot of things can go wrong, so a little bit aggressive maybe this early on lap 23 to be doing that, and we almost saw the result of it on the front stretch.
Can see Devin on the 88 on the high side, and the 88 car continues that side draft, and he's really trying to get that top line going. He's about the 4th car back right now on the top line. That's just how much. Now watch a big run here. He's going to catch up and maybe about 3rd car back. Big run here as they head down into turn 1. On the bottom though, it's still Vincent Crowe, Adam Great's son Angel Jamie. How about Mike Rasmus doing a really good job?
Yeah, he is starting to move up toward the front here. The one thing that we're kind of seeing with this outside line, you see there's really only 3 cars in that outside lane, but look at them start to pull ahead. The reason for that is that inside lane is starting to get checked up, and that's because what we talked about, you do not want to get 3 cars locked together, so guys are starting to pull back to keep that from happening. That allows that outside line with fewer cars that are nose to tail to just go right by them.
You can see there the 88 car, Devin Cannon, pulls to the outside. They're now 3 cars clear of the inside. Angel Jamie trying to come up to the middle there, tries to duck out behind the 27 car. Does a really good job to slot himself in on the high side. That was a bit of an aggressive move though, Kenny. You got to be really careful about those quick lane changes.
Yeah, and these cars, again, large runs, so cars are going to come fast, and it gets really narrow, especially in 3 wide situations. You see now Jamie is being caught by the rest of the bottom line. That's going to really check up everybody in that bottom, and the top's going to prevail here. I'm noticing that Jamie's one of the most aggressive drivers right now in the draft, not afraid to make lane changes.
Yeah, that was a really big move on his part. Went up to the middle, got all the way up to the high side, then came back down to try and be the leader of that bottom line, but just kind of stalled out once he was the first car without any help. Continues to make those big changes. Devin Cannon leads another lap. You see that 4 car, go from the inside to the outside to the middle, now back down to the bottom. He's pushing the Clarence Bonner machine, number 99 car. And Kenny, you kind of mentioned it a little bit. Looks like that Aaron's Dream machine from the early 2000s.
Yeah, the old the Busch car that Michael Waltrip used to drive, so that's a pretty cool rendition. But with the Patriot Media sponsor on it, I kind of like those kind of mashup paint schemes once in a while. But guys, looks like the top line has the more drivers in it and has the momentum at this time. But man, the 4-car Jamie is really pushing, trying to get Clarence Bonner up towards the front again.
Yeah, he's trying really hard, giving everything he can to try and give that 99 car a bunch of really strong pushes to try and propel him further up the running order here on the bottom. And JR, I kind of feel like it's all about the attitudes that these guys have, not just for personal in the head in terms of, but racing on the track. You see that top line continues to just be a lot smoother. Nobody's ducking out of lines, trying to make any big runs. They're all just kind of pushing themselves, staying nice and early. Of course, as soon as I say that, looks like the 94 car, Cosmin Yonishu, is going to go down to the bottom. He's going to get followed here by Cody Dempster in the 24 as well.
Yeah, definitely. We're seeing a lot of movement happen right now. Guys trying things. This is the time of the race to try to see what your car can and can't do, who you work well together, what guys are actually going to be doing when we get down to the end of the race. You're doing your homework right now. But the one thing I don't like is the big bumps that we're seeing. Bump drafting is perfectly fine, but there's some big hits happening, and they're happening very close in the tri-oval and the corners.
Yeah, especially for both of these cars. And again, it's just one of those things on this Gen 7, the next generation of Cup cars. Not only is the front end of the car rounded, but the back end is especially rounded as well. Whereas with most of the Gen 6 cars, all of them in fact, they had an extremely square, very flat back bumper. You only really had to worry about the front. That's why you can see, though, whenever a car gets really well hooked up to one another, perfectly in line, it's easy. But boy, as soon as these cars get a little bit disjointed, Kenny, it's very easy for them to get just a little bit tail happy.
Yeah, it is. But one thing I have noticed with these cars is that they're so tough, and as long as you hit square, if you hit kind of in the center of the car in front, you can actually hit the car in front pretty darn hard. Sometimes we see less of like easing in and pushing drivers as much as we actually see like real collisions. You'll see cars hit one another, and we saw that in the real Daytona 500 as well. So it's not something that's inaccurate in this simulation world, but it's kind of a new mechanic, but it's making drivers very aggressive on the pushing. But the key thing is you have to hit at the right time on the track and also in the right area of the bumper.
Big checkups there on the exit of turn 2. You saw Cosman Ionishu get a big push there from the 88 car, Devin Cannon. Those two drivers fell back quite considerably from the rest of the pack. Up at the front of the field, it's Cody Dempster. He's going to come off turn 4 to lead lap number 29 here as we head into 30. Big pushes here from Clarence Bonner. I see a lap car there up at the top. I believe that's the 96 machine up there, high, wide, and handsome. Going to give a lot of room here to the rest of the field. We'll see if he stays up there the entire time.
Yeah, and that is tough to do. It looked like he was actually scraping the wall a little bit. Hopefully he'll stay up there till everybody goes by. But yeah, Daytona is a lot narrower than you think it is. And once you get 3 wide in the corners, you can really see how close these cars are together. Very easy to make contact in those situations.
Well, there's a big gap here on the bottom. If you look at the front of the field, you see 3 cars all on the line. And I think that 2 is Angel Jamie now. Jumps up to the top. We'll see if Woody Mahan comes up to the rear end of this 99 machine to give him some help. You see Angel duck back down to the bottom there, just in behind Cody Dempster. Look at this run that Cosman's going to get up on the high side. That side drafting technique, so efficient to go ahead and slow down the car to your inside, but super treacherous, JR.
It is super treacherous, and it does do what you said. It pulls that driver backwards. It doesn't speed you up. It actually packs the air on the rear spoiler on that right-hand side when you do that, and it slows them down, allows you to get that momentum pushed forward. The bad thing is when you do that, the guy on your inside can do it back to you, and it's just a back-and-forth situation, but it's very treacherous. In real life to do it, it's treacherous, but on iRacing, you have things like netcode, like we talked about earlier, that can be contact happening without the 2 cars actually making contact, and it can ruin your race. So it's a very aggressive move to make, especially early in the race.
Yeah, and sometimes that net code is good for about 1 foot, maybe 1.5 foot of space that you can see on your screen, but iRacing detects that there's a car down to the inside, and it thinks that there's contact made, so it'll shoot that high car up to the top of the racetrack. And at that point, even though it looked like there was plenty enough space for the Holy Spirit, as if you were dancing at a high school prom at a Catholic school, still, cars make contact. There's a big wreck here doing about the better part of 190, 195 mile an hour. Huge pushes here up on the top. You've got Devin Cannon giving a big push here to Cosman Ionishu in the 94 car. We'll see if those cars can get any closer to the front. But guys, it looks like Angel Jamie is giving a lot of really solid pushes here to the 24 car, Cody Dempster.
Yeah, definitely. He's been one of the most aggressive pushers, and that's allowed him to stay toward the front. Even when he's fallen back into like 10th place, he's been able to quickly get back up there. The other guys that are doing the same thing are Cosman and Devin. They've been pushing each other extremely aggressive, and that's paying dividends for them right now. But they're going to have to keep that aggressive pushing no more than what they're doing right now. If they start to push it over the limit, they're going to cause a big wreck. So they're keeping that in their heads right now, trying to stay safe while also being aggressive.
Big pushes here again from Devin Cannon on the top side to Cosmin Yanishu. On the bottom, it's Angel Jamie in the 4-car to the 24 machine of Cody Dempster. And Kenny, we talk about aggressive pushing, but also we've been talking about, especially out of this 4-car of Jamie, aggressive lane changes. What are you doing behind the wheel of one of these race cars as a driver in this race? Are you thinking, man, that 4-car is going to be a good pusher, or maybe is he a little bit too volatile for you to work with right now this early in the race?
Well, there's a couple things that I look for. One is, for the end of the race, you kind of want to be able to tail behind somebody who's willing to make moves, who's willing to change lanes. But you also have to look for somebody who is able to kind of hold the line and stay straight when they're in that position. You don't want somebody who's going to shoot the middle but then not be able to hold the line while they're in the middle. So it's kind of, there's a few things that I personally look for when I'm looking for a drafting partner is, somebody who's willing to make the moves, but also somebody who's stable and controlled while they're doing it.
Lots of drivers that continue to whoa, hard contact between that 99 car and the 4-car Angel Jamie. Looked like there was about a half a foot of space between them, JR. Talking about that net code, that's one of those things. That's a prime example of what can happen when two cars get close enough together that iRacing thinks they're touching.
Yeah, exactly right. And it can happen on every track on iRacing just because of the way the internet works and the system itself trying to figure out where all the cars are. But it's especially bad on the super speedways at Daytona and Talladega. You've got to be aware of that throughout the whole race and make sure that you're not doing something overly aggressive that could cause the system to think you're closer than what you are.
And hopefully, for the sake of the 4-car there of Angel Jamie, not too much damage between he and the car that made contact with him on the outside. I can't tell if he was able to hop back in line. Most likely, though, he was able to, if not get into this front pack, there is a second pack a little bit back further on the track. Cosmin Yanishu going to lead this lap, getting a lot of help here from Devin Cannon. You see that 03 car, Justin Rector, shoot down to the bottom. We'll see how much help he can get from that 99 car. Clarence Bonner just behind him. You see this bottom line start to drop even. Now they surpass the top side.
Yeah, and Austin, you're starting to see those guys that are able to find their way back toward the front no matter what happened. Justin Rector now taking the lead back. He was a guy that fell back on one of the restarts due to his line not forming up, but now he's been able to make his way back up there. Cosmin, Devin, those guys have stayed up here. Mike Rasmus has now made his way back up to the front. So a lot of these guys, we're seeing who is very good at this type of racing.
Guys, how about that 56 car, about 6th in line on the bottom, Norm Pelletier. He was one of those guys involved in that initial caution we had, won this race last year.
Yeah, exactly right. He's extremely good at Daytona, and I think this just goes to show you, to Kenny's point earlier, how tough these cars are. He was against the wall backwards earlier, and now he is up here close to the top 10. He's been right around that 11th, 12th place for the last few laps, but almost breaking into the top 10 here.
Cars once again 2 by 2 up at the front of the field. Big pushes there from Cosmin Yanishu to the rear end of the 99 car, Clarence Bonner. Down on the inside, it's the 24 car, Cody Dempster, giving a hearty push there to the 03 car, Justin Rector. Led the last lap. I'll be interested to see who's going to win this drag race off of turn 4. Look at all those cars getting swiggly. Kenny, at some point, how many laps into a run do the rear tires really start to fail you? The cars start to slide around more so than you'd like.
Yeah, so what I noticed is about 15 to 17 laps into a run, you'll start to notice the back end getting a little more tail happy in these cars. And we're beyond that point. Drivers pitted on lap 17. We had 1 or 2 more caution laps, and we're on lap 38 now. So I was just about to say you're going to start seeing drivers moving around possibly a little bit more. Now, granted, the track is not too greasy. It's only 91-degree track temp right now, but the tire wear does matter. It's not just a complete, go full throttle and not have to worry about the car's handling. Handling does matter here at Daytona. Oh, so we got cars on the wall and one sliding down to the inside.
Yeah, contact there between the 28 car. If it looks like Joe Branch and one car down to the inside of. Oh, they're making more contact up at the top of the track. Cody Dempster, Adam Blattle came up the track. They're wrecking everywhere. Woody Mahan in the wall. Mark Herzog hard on the brakes to make sure he tries to avoid it. Looks like he's going to come out of this clean. Oh, spoke too soon. Gets doored there by the 24 car, Cody Dempster.
Yeah, and guys, we'll get a replay of this, but it looks like Cody had a huge run coming, and then 104 of Adam. Blattle just tried to make a late move, maybe not realizing how fast that run was coming, and of course contact was made. And after that, it's just everybody trying to avoid it. But this track is very narrow. Trying to go 3 wide is really hard to do. You see guys coming in at different speeds, and it's just very hard to avoid that contact.
So even more cars junked. You can see the rest of the field tries to slow down to avoid them. That was a lot more race cars kind of tore up in that. This is the replay, of course, as the cars now head down into turn 1. Adam Blattle goes up the track. A big run from him, the 24 car Cody Dempster. Not really anything you can do at that point. Sometimes the spotter calls you clear. You go up the rest of the track, and a big run for the 24 car means that 104 was going to get turned into the outside wall, and a lot of unfortunate bystanders in that event. And there was also one coming off of turn 4. I know the 28 car made contact with another car. I can't quite tell who that was. To Justin Rector getting word. I believe that is correct. Director Ryan Seneca in her ear. Yep, that's correct. As always, Ryan Seneca on the money.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Justin Rector, it looked like he was going to lose a ton of position here, but that was actually a good thing, him getting turned sideways into the infield, because he avoided this big wreck that would have happened right around where he was running.
So now, Kenny, question for you in terms of fuel strategy for this race. We're on lap 40, 10 laps from now. Those stage points get paid out. It's nothing about if the caution flag comes out, and always they're awarded at lap 50. Depending on when these guys came down pit road, do you expect a whole lot of guys to stay out, or everybody come down pit road once again?
Well, it's going to be easy here, easy strategy. Everybody's going to come down pit road right now, because you're not only playing for the stage, you're playing for the end of the race. So if you come down now, which everybody is, you got a 10-lap shootout or a little bit less than that to the end of the stage. And then from here, if we stay green, you get about a 30-ish lap run. That'll get you just inside the window. You pit just after lap 70, and that'll be your final pit stop for fuel for the day. Now, granted, that is if we stay green, but you have to kind of assume that happens. So yeah, pit strategy pretty easy here. You can see one car spun around at pit exit.
88 car getting spun around at the exit of pit road. While these drivers continue on with their caution, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing.
Welcome back to the Team Watson Racing Setups 250 from Daytona International Speedway. You're watching the Virtual Grip Network, covering the high banks of Daytona, the high mountaintops of Washington Hill Climb. Team Watson Racing Setups has you covered for any on-demand setup needs. Go to teamwatsonracing.com and see what the fuss is about. Guys, we're here. Lap 100 overall is the finish of this race. We're currently on lap 42. Stage points get paid out in about 8 more laps on lap 50. So halfway through the race, these guys have the opportunity to earn 10 points if you're the leader, all the way back to 1 point if you're in 10th. Do you expect to see business picking up here for a couple laps?
I do. We're seeing some new names. This pit stop exchange has kind of mixed up the running order a little bit, but two names that kind of stand out. Jeff Ward, we've not talked about him today. He's up in the 10th now that it's getting close to stage point time, along with Thomas George as well. So those two guys, they are our two most recent champions. They cannot get bonus points except for stage points, so that would be the time for them to get up front and try to get those, and then they can fall back and run conservative until toward the end of the race.
I was just going to say, business starting to pick up, and look who's back here at the tail end of the top 10. Ward and George. iRacing pace car goes down pit road. Christopher in charge of the field brings us to the green once again. He's got Devin Cannon just behind him, and up at the top, Cosmin Ianashu. Vincent Crow giving him a hardy push here to start off this run. Look at that 43 car all over the rear end of Vincent as they start to get going. Bottom line, though, looks to be prevailing. Lots of help here from that 59 on the bottom, helping out the 88 all the way up to the 7 car. They're now almost 4 cars clear on the bottom.
Yeah, definitely, just like we've seen on the other starts. That bottom line gets formed up quickly. They seem to be able to pull away, but they also start to check up by the time they get to turns 3 and 4, and you'll start to see that outside line start to pull back up, sometimes even taking advantage and passing them all the way coming off of turn 4.
Well, Kenny, at what point, if you're one of these drivers on the bottom, you want to score some stage points at the end of this thing, which means you want to be towards the front end of this top 10. If you're on the bottom, at what point do you jump up to the top?
Well, I think the move that was just made right there by Devin Cannon, I think that was a good one. You got to watch that momentum of the high side, because if they come up and pass the low line, sometimes you'll miss your opportunity. So I think that's a really good move there by Cannon. Get up there as soon as you can. I like the strategy right now of trying to get as far up as possible and play a little bit of defense, not be too crazy with it. If someone gets a huge run, kind of have to concede, but I like the strategy of trying to get up as far up to the front as possible. Try to stay ahead of a possible wreck if it's going to happen.
Yeah, big move there by Devin Cannon. Gets himself put in the wall, though, by Cosmin Ianashu. Gets himself off the wall just in time, but he's going to get freight trained here outside in that third line. Absolutely hung out to dry. Cars are spinning behind. They're both going down to the apron. Hard contact into the inside wall. We're going to stay green. Cosmin leads this lap. He's got a big push from Vincent Crow on the top. Down on the bottom, it's Chris Stouffer, and then the 59 car, Joshua O'Connor.
Yeah, and right now, like you said, Austin, Vincent has been one of the good pushers in this race. He's been able to really shoot people out toward the front. So he's one of the guys you kind of want behind you at the moment because, like you said, Cosman's been able to take this lead due to him being behind him.
Big pushes here. Look out for this run on the bottom, though. Lots of fast cars. They're almost hooked up. They just about lost it before they made it to the corner. And don't look now, but here's that 44 car shooting up through the middle. Angel Jamie, it's been a hot minute since we talked about him. He continues to make those money moves we're talking about. Starts to shoot the middle. They're 3 wide, 4 cars back. The first 3 cars all single file on the top. Make that the top 4. Jeff Ward in 4th position shoots down to the bottom of the track.
Yeah, these guys are going to have to be on the top of their game right now. There's a lot of movement going on, a lot of changing lanes last second. You've got to be able to calculate that and get off that throttle, change your own lane to avoid contact at times. But right now these guys are avoiding big wrecks, but there's a lot of movement. Guys even ducking below the yellow line here.
Yeah, Angel Jamie getting a huge run here on the 18 car of Jake Sylvia. Look at the shot there from the 99 car going all the way down to the bottom of the track. That's Clarence Bonner. He's going to have a really good run. Angel Jamie goes to the bottom, thinks about it, decides not to. Don't look now, but now Devin Cannon lines up on the bottom. A big push here from the 99 car. Thinks better of it. Angel Jamie continues to look around looking for an opportunity. Cosmin Ianashu leads another lap, getting really solid pushes here from Vincent Crow. At what point, though, does Crow maybe duck down to the bottom and try to win this stage?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're on lap 47 right now. Lap 50 is that payout for a point. So I think he's going to try to stay in line probably until that last lap and then make a move here, assuming that we don't already have a second lane forming up. If that second lane forms up, you're going to have to get in front of it.
Yeah, Kenny, I've been kind of curious here. Angel Jamie's been one of those drivers not too afraid to make those moves up towards the front of the field. At what point does he shoot down to the bottom and try to get that second lane formed? He might run out of time if he doesn't do it fast enough.
Well, him and some of these other drivers might be kind of looking for somebody else to start. Oh, he's going to the high side. He's actually going to dump Jake Sylvia, who got him caught sleeping a little bit. He left that gap. That's an aggressive move that a very popular move that drivers will do. If they see a gap to the outside wall, they'll go up there and make that work. But what I was going to say is some of these drivers might be looking for other drivers to make that move for them, and somebody will jump down to the bottom, and then your goal is to jump down in front of them and be that lead car. Everybody wants to be the lead car of whichever line they choose.
And you can see Angel Jamie goes up to give a huge shot to the 43 car, and Doug Roth up at the front of the field, and then backs off. I got to wonder if he's maybe timing a run here. Christopher in the 7 car down in the bottom, as is Jeff Ort in the 9, and then Thomas George in the 6 car. Talk about those guys, past champions. The 2 defending ones, Vincent Crow looks down at the bottom. He goes down there, but no one's going to go with him for right now. We'll see if he gets picked up by those 3 cars down on the bottom.
And he will get picked up here, but he moved way too early as the line that is catching him. He has to drop 4 or 5 spots before the line catches him, and it'll check them up big time. So he might be able to gain it back, though. Here he's got a lap and a half longer to get those stage points.
Yeah, lap and a half longer, but that inside line continues to flounder, really having a hard time generating a run. Up towards the front of the pack, you've got Cosmin Yiannashu continues to lead on the high side. Pretty big pushes there from the 43 car, Doug Roth. And how about Angel Jamie, the 3rd car in line? You got to wonder what he's got up his sleeve here. They're going to cross the line right now to start lap 50. At the end of this is when those stage points get paid out. And look at that, Favor almost returned from the 18 car, trying to go around the outside of the 4.
Oh, that was a close moment right there, Austin. Almost contact. He got very lucky there, but definitely Angel Jamie, he is going to look to make his own run here on this last lap. Unfortunately, that inside lane is already there, so he's going to run out of space to do so.
Cosmin Yiannashu considers going all the way down to the bottom. Time runs out for him. They're 3 wide. A huge push from Jamie up to the rear end of Cosmin. They're 3 wide right now. Now back down to 2 as that 43 car up top. Doug Roth continues to fall back in turns 3 and 4. Right now it's Cosmin Yiannashu. But guys, time and time again, it's always the car second compared to the entire field that most of the time ends up winning out the battle. Going to be a drag race, but it looks like that 4 car continues to push Cosmin towards the front. He's going to win the first stage. Top 10 in the field, getting 10 points, all the way down from 10 to 1 for the car in 10th place. So that's the end of the first stage, and boy, business really picked up. And how about Jeff Ward, about 5th or so in line, 6th it looks like.
Yeah, he picks up the 6th place points there. Came from 45th starting position. Ryan Rose started 39th. He got 7th in that one. And Thomas George, he started back on that last row. He got 9th place points. So, like we said, those guys, they were going to be going to the front when it was payout time for points.
Yeah, talk about biggest movers of the race. The 2 defending series champions have to automatically start tail end of the field. So those 2, Jeff Ward and Thomas George, started 45th and 46th, respectively. Those 2 cars right now up to about 5th and 6th or 7th or so, respectively. So doing a really good job to keep their noses clean this far into the race. But Kenny, you just went up there. You scored yourself some stage points. If you're Ward and George, at what point do you say enough is enough? I'm going to go right around at the back of the pack once again.
Well, at this point, you have less than 20 laps until you're going to pit again. So I think, and that's going to be the last green flag fuel pit stop of the day. So in my opinion, I think you at least bare minimum try to stay up in this lead pack. Now, whether or not it's at the front of it remains to be seen. But I mean, this lead pack at this point is only about 13, 14 cars. So if you want to stay up towards the front and be able to pit with the front runners, if we have a green flag stop, you kind of have no choice but to stay at least near this lead group.
Riding on board here with Vincent Crow, as you can see, looking out over the front end of his race car towards the back end of that Angel Jamie number 4 machine. A pretty big push for him. Bottom line, looks like they're a little bit stronger for right now. Top line about 4 cars back. You've got Cosmin Yiannashu, and then the number 18 car of Jake Sylvia just behind him. Top line really having a hard time generating some runs.
Yeah, definitely. They're going to have to get some more cars formed up on that high side to get it working once again. But I've got to believe as we get another 5 or 10 laps in, that's going to be where most of the people want to be, just to try to ride and avoid contact with that bottom apron through the corners. It's easy to do when you're nose to tail. But then again, like Kenny said, we're only about 20 laps away from pit stops. And in order to do a green flag pit stop, you've got to get to that bottom lane.
And Kenny, I think we can speak to this point really well too. Of course, in one of our other leagues, the NEP league on iRacing, sometimes we'll do these big races here at the larger plate tracks, and you have to start talking to your teammates and talking to other teams to try and discuss when you guys as a group want to go down pit road, because if you go down there with just one or two other people, you're going to have a really rough time of keeping up your speed compared to these larger packs or groups of guys that come down onto pit road during these green flag runs.
Yeah, and this particular league has a ton of teams, and they're all in different Discord rooms together, privately communicating with each other. The only problem is that we have a large field of 46 cars, but we only have 13 cars in this lead pack. So you might be forced to kind of make friends with somebody you might not normally work with in order to make a nice organized pit stop. And really, honestly, if these leaders don't want to be caught by the second group, it'd be best if nearly this entire group pitted at once. But we all know that the more cars that pit at once, the more potential danger there is for collisions coming to pit lane. And a lot of times in iRacing, collisions coming to pit lane at Daytona do not bring out a caution.
We'll talk about, too, just how hard it is, especially in these cars, to go ahead and stop to get in your box. The braking package is a lot different compared to any other stock car on the iRacing service. So not only do you have to negotiate going from about 190 to 55 mile an hour, you also have to then go from 55 to 0 mile an hour to stop in your box. And you don't have to stop perfect, but it's better if you do, and it's only about maybe a foot of room you have in your box to stop where the pit crew will still service you.
Yeah, the new brake package in the Gen 7 car is better in one way and worse in another compared to the Gen 6. It's better when you actually come to the pit lane speed because the brakes are phenomenal from a high speed, but for whatever reason, in my experience, the brakes are not very good when you're going down from that 55 miles an hour down to 0. Very difficult to actually get the car stopped. You have to brake a lot earlier than you might think, so you do have to plan for that, and some drivers may end up coming into their box a lot more conservatively in order to get stopped. But yeah, this is going to be a very important pit stop to ensure that you get out with the same group that you came in with.
Up at the front of the field, this first pack at least, you've got Angel Jamie in the 4 car on the high side, getting help right now from Cosmin Yanishu, and the 94 car on the bottom. It's Vincent Crow first in line. Following him is that 7 car, Chris Stouffer. Those 2 cars continue to trade the lead back and forth. 4 cars, I should say. You've still got the 18 of Jake Sylvia up there, the 9 car of Jeff Ward. How about Thomas George, TR? You mentioned him being so good at these larger plate tracks, and he's always considered to be a factor on really any track we go to. He's done really good at some of the short tracks. He's done phenomenal on the intermediate tracks, and I think road course might be the only chink in his armor if there is one, but he's pretty competent on those too.
Yeah, definitely. Probably the road courses is where he lacked the most last year, and it wasn't by a lot, so definitely something that he can make ground on during this season. But when it comes to super speedway racing, like we said, he won 2 of these races last year. So he's somebody you want to pay attention to, see what he's doing, see how he's making his progression through the field. Because if you're somewhere around him, you're probably going to end up toward the front at the end of the day.
Yeah, kind of the Pied Piper. As it were. They always refer to Dale Jr. as one of those drivers you could just follow in a plate race, and you might not always win, but you'd usually finish up towards the front. Best case scenario, maybe second, because of course you're pushing him. This is looking out the windshield here of Michael Krobach, driver of the number 72 car, one of those drivers that continued to put in some really strong finishes at the end of the last season. He was one of those guys, looked like a shoo-in for the championship there by the end of the season, but just missed it by a couple of points when it came down to it at the very end. You can see him just catching up to this top pack here. He's going to be one of the drivers this season. I feel like he's going to want to go out there. He's going to want to redeem himself. I feel like this could be another strong championship run for him.
Yeah, and the second group has actually caught up to this pack that was leading. Krobach was leading that pack, so now we've gone from about 13 cars up to about 16 or 17 maybe here. So it's a little bit bigger now than it was, and we're about 10 laps away from potential pit stops. So business is going to start picking up here.
Yeah, 3 cars clear, make that 4 on the high side. Angel Jamie, Cosmin Yanishu, 18 car Jake Sylvia. You saw the 99 car there, Clarence Bonner, jump from the top line down to the bottom as they come off at turn 2. And JR, these cars really starting to slide around. You can see just how sideways they got. That was Devin Cannon. Did not even consider getting all the way down to the bottom of the track there. It looked like he just got so loose, he had to do that in order to hold on to the thing.
Yeah, I think he definitely got loose. It looked like there was a car, I couldn't see which one, that was actually into the wall coming off of turn 2 down to the back straightaway. And I think he probably saw that out of the corner of his eye and just ducked down thinking there may be contact coming. But he avoided it and luckily didn't spin himself in the process, because that could have been really bad right there.
Talking about drivers in that second pack, they're finally catching up to the first. One of those drivers is the driver of the number 55 car, Brian Yazik. Really started to come on strong towards the end of season 2 and continued to keep up that momentum as last season went on. Another one of those 3 drivers that all came down with a chance to win it towards the end of the season. Unfortunately for him, fell a little bit flat, but still really strong runs there towards the end of last season. He's another one of those drivers looking to carry that strong momentum he had at the end of last season into this one. One of those drivers I think is going to be really close to that title contention towards the end of the season, guys.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. He just had bad luck toward the very end of last season that kind of cost him that championship, but he's going to be one that's going to be up front each and every week. Definitely going to score some wins once again, because we saw how dominant he can be on certain tracks, and not just dominant, but he's able to pull off stuff late. Like, you may not see him the entire race, and then at the end he's there contending for the win. So he's somebody that is definitely going to be in the battle for points this season.
Yeah, certainly, Kenny. Looks like all the drivers right now single file up at the top of the track. Is this them just kind of trying to get themselves sorted out so they know they can come down pit road in an orderly fashion? Of course, just as soon as I say that, you see a bunch of drivers making it too wide at the front of the field, currently led by Vincent Crow, the first driver in that bottom line.
Well, I think part of the reason for the split up was that the leaders caught 2 lap cars, and this is going to get hairy. They're wrecking
here.
So the leaders caught 2 lap cars. One was on the bottom and one was on the top. And the leaders got stacked behind Joe Branch, who was on the top, and just ran out of room. We started seeing 3-4 wide, and this is what happened.
Oh, this was a really, really large wreck here that didn't even trigger the caution until some of the cars wrecking on the bottom. I think it was the 43 car there, Doug Reth, that went up the track, and as soon as he hit that, the track part being about 90-degree perpendicular angle compared to the direction they should have been going, that's what finally triggered the caution. There was a lot of cars door banging off each other, and the caution really wasn't called until it was incredibly late after contact had been made, but again, off the racing surface.
Yeah, and if we could, I'd like to take an onboard look at Jeff Ward from his cockpit view, because he did get clipped in the right rear, but made an insane save. I mean, he was going to be looking at a face full of outside wall here and ends up making this save. Watch this. Watch how sideways he gets.
Whoa, we've been racing with a lot of the iRacing AI recently, Kenny, and the 87 Cup cars. That was certainly kind of the save you'd see them make. That was, I don't know how he held on to that car, but he didn't even have a reverse wiggle. Like, he didn't catch it too much. It was just perfect. Back to straightforward, perfect save there out of the number 9 car.
And he's one of the lucky ones, guys, because a lot of drivers involved in that. And this is also going to make pit strategy interesting, because we are, I mean, if we pit now, which obviously drivers will pit now, I am very doubtful that we will make it to the end without more cautions. Now, granted, probably will get more cautions, but again, you have to think ahead, green flag. You have to think of those kind of scenarios, and it's going to be very borderline for everybody. You might even see some drivers come down pit lane coming to get the 1 to green just to get a little bit more fuel in these race cars.
Yeah, I feel like depending on where you are in the pack, you're definitely going to want to come back down pit road, pack that thing full of fuel just to make sure. I feel like if we get maybe a caution or 2, I think 2 cautions, all these guys might be safe. one caution, you really be pushing it. But Kenny, you got to ask yourself, at what point do tires come back into the mix? You talked about that 15-20 lap area, where after that you really want some new tires. I wonder what that's going to do to a lot of these guys as well. But we're going to take a quick break, just as these drivers are. Why don't you get up, go to the fridge, maybe get yourself out a snack, maybe a drink. Come right back here in a couple minutes. We'll meet you here.
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
Welcomes you to the Chuckles. I'm in danger. 250 can possibly go to the outside. He does go to the outside of Ricky Harden. Tries a slide draft him. Harden goes up the track. Now back down to the bottom. Gets a huge push from Tommy Ryan at the start finish. It's going to be Thomas George.
Running the high line, trying to make that
got
pass.
loose off turn 4.
In the grass goes the 6 car, and they were side by side, 2 by 2 here.
Still Scott Eckler winning the last race of the season and the championship.
Jeff Ward definitely getting the championship for season 2.
Give it up for Thomas George, winning the race in the championship. George overshoots the corner. Scott puts that car just where he needs to on the middle. It's going to be a drag race through the kick. Welcome back to the Team Watson Racing Setups 250 from Daytona International Speedway. Lights look to be out atop the iRacing pace car. Team Watson Racing Setups is not the only setup shop on iRacing, but you sure will feel like it is after you subscribe. After just one taste of their builders' magic-like abilities, you'll wonder why you went anywhere else before. A down-to-earth team for down-to-earth drivers, TWRS will improve your speed, promote your successes, and do so while being light on your wallet. Visit TeamWatsonRacing.com to subscribe today for an easy $25 a month for all NASCAR sets. Join the squad and come find out why TWRS has become the fastest growing setup shop in all of stock car racing. They can't wait to see you win. Guys, we come back here 100 laps for the entire race. We're on lap 66 out of that 100. Vincent Crowe currently leads the field. He's got Jeff Ward, season 2 of last year's champion. Behind him, Ron Hart, third. Thomas George, the defending series champion. Scott Eckridge in 5th, the driver who won the first season championship last year. So this is definitely a stacked field towards the front. These are usually the time the players of the league come out, and we're starting to see that iRacing pace car goes down pit road. Hans now in the field of Vincent Crowe for the entire field. Goes ahead and puts his foot on the loud pedal, starts to pull away. He's got Jeff Ward and Thomas George on the top side. Those two are probably going to get linked up here.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Those guys trust each other. They know how to race around one another, and they're going to try to work together here to get out front. Right now, Jeff Ward is taking that lead slightly, but that inside line is going to charge back.
Yeah, look at though this 55 car, Brian Yazik starting to come up on the high side. He's going to give some help here. This pushing that cushion of air to Thomas George. George is going to then push the cushion of air for Jeff Ward up at the front. Look at Jeff Ward here taking the lead. Just as the 51 car there, Ron Hart catches up to the rear end of the 83 car, Vincent Crowe on the bottom.
Yeah, definitely 3 great guys in that outside lane. They're going to be able to work together smartly and probably be able to continue to move forward. You see that inside line breaking up. It's slowing them down. These guys have gotten out front, but Jeff Ward's going to choose to try to work that inside line now, moving to the inside.
Yeah, I don't know if that was him trying to go down to the bottom or Thomas George maybe just giving him a little bit too much of an offset push, forced him down to the bottom of the track, and luckily for him, Vincent Crowe was just far enough behind. He was able to come up just behind him and start giving him some pushes there. So Jeff Ward on the bottom in control of the field. Thomas George in control of the top line. He's got Brian Yazik behind him, and then behind those two drivers is the 05 car, Ed Fowler, another one of those newer guys this season.
Yeah, definitely a lot of newer faces in this league. That's going to bring some excitement, but also some unpredictability. We've kind of seen that throughout this race so far, guys being aggressive at different times. But it's going to make it a little bit exciting, and it's probably going to make the end of this race a lot more interesting than what it was last season.
Jeff Ward going to lead another lap, still getting pushed here by Vincent Crowe. Up at the top, fourth car in the top line, the number 26 car, Kevin Bartelt. And JR, you and I talked about it quite a bit in the green room for these races. Kevin just continued to be the bad luck driver all of last season. It looked like every time he was going to have a good race, sometimes internet connectivity problems, sometimes he'd just get wrecked by a different driver. Hopefully this year he's looking to change that, and hopefully for his sake, it does. He starts to turn that luck around.
Yeah, definitely last year, the entire year, not just one season, was the driver that had the most bad luck. He could not find a good place to run on the track. Wasn't doing anything wrong himself, but would get caught up in different things. So definitely, if he can have a good run here at Daytona, that will give him the momentum he needs throughout the rest of this season.
Brian Yazik was on the top side, ducks down to the bottom, out from behind the rear end there at Thomas George. We'll see how fast he catches up to that 99 car there, Clarence Bonner on the bottom. Look at Scott Eckrich, that driver third in line on the bottom. Lots of players up here at the front of the field. I got to wonder, though, how many of these drivers are going to have looked at last year's results and kind of know these are the guys you're going to have to mess with if you want a chance to win these races and certainly win a championship when it comes down to the end of it.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, all these guys that we saw running up front before the halfway point, some of those guys are still up there, but now you've got all the guys you expect to be up there as well, and they have not raced around these guys the entire race. So they're going to go to school here and see how the guys that dominated the entire last year at PGRL, see how they race, and they're going to have to learn quickly if they want to beat them here today.
Jeff Ward continues to hold point on the bottom. Now the 51 car, Ron Hart, continues to get large runs on the top. Looking to challenge that run for Jeff Ward on the bottom. A big push here for Hart by Thomas George in the 6 car behind him. Just as soon as that happens, you see the 83 car, Vincent Crowe, get right up to the back of the 9 car. Jeff Ward give them a big push. It's going to be a drag race off of turn 4 to see who leads this lap. Now it's going to come down to which guy gets the best push coming off the corner and which line has the most help. It looks like Ron Hart's going to lead this lap. We'll see if he goes down to the bottom. Might make it 3 wide here. Yeah, he's going to get put in the sucker hole, Kenny.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You have to be committed to any move you make. You can't hesitate. You got to go top or bottom. And Ron just hesitated a little bit, and at least he didn't make the worst decision of coming down onto another car and causing a wreck, but he is going to lose some spots here and getting side draft there with Thomas George, and that's actually going to really hurt that top line as well.
Well, I tell you what's going to hurt the bottom line, too. You saw a couple cars just absolutely duck out of the line and go down below that double yell. You saw Kevin Bartelt consider it. Clarence Bonner in the 99 car. He did so for a little bit. He's back up there on the bottom line, but the first 10 or 12 cars or so are all single file down around the bottom. So that little bit of hesitation there of do I go 2 wide or 3 wide? Even Thomas George, he checked up just to make sure that there wasn't a caution. Lots of heads-up driving there by Thomas George, but unfortunately for him, that's going to go ahead and put him, 8th right now in the overall standings. And of course, now he's down on the bottom too. It's not like being 8th and you're the first car on the top side. He's on the bottom as well, JR.
Yeah, he's definitely on the bottom. Everything is single filed out at the moment. We saw Brian Yazik getting thrown into that outside line. Be interested if somebody tries to go with him and get that second lane back going again, but I think he's actually going to pull back into the inside lane and ride for right now.
Yeah, that was a move by that Patriot car, that Aaron's Dream Machine-esque looking car, the 99 car. Clarence Bonner did a really good job to arc that car down the track on the exit of turn 2. As soon as Yazik got tight coming off of it, that 99 car whipped the wheel to the left and went down inside him. Got a handful of opposite lock there as he went to do that, but he made that position. Now he's looking to the outside here of Scott Eckrich, trying to get this high line to form. Looks like Jake Sylvia in the 18 car is going to go with him, and just behind those guys, I believe that's the 98 car. Tyler Graff looking to go help him as well.
Yeah, starting to form up there. These guys are going to try to start to position themselves We're assuming they can go the entire way since we just pitted, but some guys may be trying to save fuel. It may come down to if it is a green flag run all the way to the end, we may get some guys running out on that last lap. So who's being smart here, saving fuel, and who's trying to run hard and get that lead?
Lots of lane changes as they went down the back straightaway. You see a couple cars now coming all the way down to the track. Scott Eckrich, Kevin Bartelt. It looks like those two are going to call their shot right now. They know they don't have enough fuel to make it to the end of this race. They want to duck out of this lead pack here. And Candy, they're probably not going to fall a lap down compared to the rest of the field if they can get themselves on and off of pit road fast enough just to splash and dash. So they've got a pretty good opportunity. As long as there's enough cars with them, I feel like they might be sitting in the catbird seat.
Yeah, as long as they can get off of pit road and get organized, they should be in a pretty decent spot as long as they we stay green. Now, this is not an end-all strategy necessarily for the 70 and some of the others. If we get a caution, yeah, sure, they won't necessarily let it all play out, but they will get to stay out, and if anybody else hasn't pitted, then they'll flip-flop everybody and get to the front. The key thing here is they have to get organized and not go a lap down.
Riding on board here out the right side, looking to back to the rest of the field of Jeff Ward's number 9 Loud Pedal Motorsports machine. He's currently your leader. Vincent Crow in second. Clarence Bonner, number 99 car in third. Jake Sylvia in fourth in the 18. Ron Hart rounds out your top 5 in that 51 car. The rest of the top 10 looks like Tyler Graff in 6th, Ryan Rose 7th, Ed Fowler 8th, Matthew Wheeler in 9th, William Farmer in 10th. We're going to catch a lap car here. That's the 4 car of Angel Jamie. He's going to stay high, wide, and handsome for the rest of the field to pass him on the bottom. You can see 2 wide, though, going to be 3 wide as they maneuver themselves around this lap car. Look out, though, for that top side. A little bit of a squeeze maneuver coming off of turn 4.
So to give a quick update on those drivers who pitted, looks like 4 of them got all together. Eckrich, Yazik, George, and Jersky. However, Krobach and Bartelt, they fell behind, and now they've been picked up by Isaiah Dupre, who's laps down. So they will lose touch with those lead 4 cars. And we'll have to keep an eye on the rest of these drivers and see how things play out here. But you will probably see some drivers go all the way until about lap 95 or so before they absolutely have to pit. Some may even try to stretch it beyond that, depending on, like what JR said, if you run in the pack, you'll get a lot better gas mileage than if you run up front. Some drivers might intentionally run in the pack to see how far they can go.
Well, JR, I was just going to touch on that too. You talked about saving fuel. The car in front, he's going to have his foot on the loud pedal the entire time, but if you're any of these guys behind him, you're going to catch up to him. You might lift to make sure you don't run in the back of him. If you're anybody, get these guys about maybe 3 or 4 cars back, you can kind of just play with the throttle. You might go full throttle for a little bit, ease off where you catch the car ahead. You don't want to be pushing anybody if you're in the middle of the pack, even about 3 or 4 cars back. Maybe that's where you want to be right now, because I feel like Jeff Ward, if anybody's going to run out of fuel by the end of this race, it's going to be the guy you can see on your screen right now out the front windshield here of Vincent Crow, that number 9 of Jeff Ward.
Yeah, definitely. Jeff Ward is not saving any fuel. He's wide open at the moment, but you see that nobody's really pushing him hard right now. So these guys are kind of riding back there and saving the fuel. Otherwise, they'd be catching him a lot faster. So they're working that throttle, like you said, to make sure that they are saving. The other interesting thing here is that we kind of talked amongst ourselves earlier, there's no green-white checkers in this league. So there could be a late caution with 3 or 4 laps to go. If you're one of the guys that saved fuel and stayed out, you could win the race. Even if you weren't going to make it under green flag conditions, that caution could allow you to make it to the end.
Certainly so. Jeff Ward, Vincent Crow, Clarence Bonner, William Farmer, Jake Sylvia in the top 5. The high line starting to come into play. The driver right now leading that, Joshua O'Connor, in the 59 car. He's getting a lot of help here from that number 33 machine just behind him. Having a hard time finding him on my scoring monitor here. But then, of course, behind him, the 27 car, Adam Greed. So those top 3 on the top line, trying to see if they can't get up there and lead some laps. And guys, I believe there is some bonus incentives there for leading a lap as well.
Yeah, definitely. There's bonus points for leading a lap. I believe there's bonus points for most laps led. And a big one here today is there is a bonus point for the fastest lap in the race. So if you were smart at some point and got a huge run in the back of the pack, you could be that guy that gets the bonus point for that.
And I'm not going to say this is going to really be Jeff Ward's saving grace. I feel like he's already burned enough fuel to not be able to make it to the end on fuel. But right now, I feel like this is the best thing he could have happen for him is this 59 car, Joshua O'Connor, to go up there and start to lead this pack and now burn the most fuel. But I feel like Jeff Ward is confident enough that he's either going to be able to make it the rest of the way on this tank of fuel or that his caution will come out and he can race his way back up there, because you can see he spent no time at all throwing a lane change there on the field, going up to block the run of that 33 car, and now once again he is in the lead of this front pack.
Yeah, Jeff was definitely not interested in staying behind the lap car at all, and we know Jeff's a smart racer. He has a game plan and he's sticking to it right now, so we'll have to see how this plays out for him.
So another challenge here on the bottom of the 59 car. Joshua Ward getting a big push there by Vincent Crow on the bottom. So it looks like O'Connor's going to lead this lap as they come off of turn 4. And Kenny, you got to be kind of wondering, now that all these guys have seen Scott Eckrich and a couple of those other drivers come down pit road, are they maybe formulating a plan to have to do that themselves? Or are they mostly just in it to win at this point? You've made your bed, you got to lay in it.
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, you might see some drivers, pit a little bit earlier than they might have planned because of seeing those other 4, 5, 6 drivers pit. Because what it'll do is, we have a caution, so that's going to completely end any strategy.
It's going to end strategy, but I still don't feel like those guys that already went down pit road are really in the deep weeds here. I feel like they'll have a good opportunity now that they know they can make it on fuel. They should be able to stay out here, and as everybody else comes down pit road, they should cycle to the front of the pack. But again, the more cautions you have, it kind of just goes ahead and vindicates these drivers who stayed out on their strategy because they have a better opportunity to make it towards the end of the race here. You can see the cause for caution on your screen. It looks like the 7 car, Christopher, couldn't quite tell who those 2 cars were spinning down towards the bottom. Looks like the 42 car and the 38, and I believe that's the 88 car as well, Clarence Bonner. Devin. Devin Cannon. Jason Galvin in the 42 and Brian Greenlee in the 38. Looks like the other couple of drivers involved in that accident. Apologies as well. It's a little bit hard. As every new season starts, you're going to see some new faces and new places, some new numbers and new paint schemes out on the track, so it's really hard to retrain your brain up here in the booth in terms of who's driving what car, what number, and the different kind of paint schemes and color schemes these guys have. So it looks like there's a little bit of a coming together between the 42, Jason Galvin, the 38, Brian Greenlee, and the 88 car, Devin Cannon.
So we'll take a look and see if the leaders pit. If I were these guys, I would be definitely coming in. Plenty of time to make up any positions that you lose, and sure enough, it looks like everybody going to come in. The drivers towards the back that did pit, they might end up staying out, but and it looks like they will. Eckrich, Yazik, all them guys are staying out. Now, what this is going to do is it's a good situation for those drivers who pitted, but it's not ideal. I feel like that those drivers who pitted earlier wanted it to stay green and let it play out, because then they could have possibly overlapped and then not allowed the packman behind to even catch back up. Whereas now they will be in the lead, but they won't have any way to run away. They'll have to fend off the rest of the field from here on out.
A little bit of an update before we go back to commercial break. Chris Stauffer is manually disconnected from the session, so after that wreck, it looks like his damage was terminal. We're going to take a quick break. Why don't you go get something to drink, maybe fill your water back up. We'll be right back in a couple minutes.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the Team Watson Racing Setups 250 from Daytona International Speedway. You're watching this live on the Virtual Grip Network. We're currently on lap number 85 out of 100, so when we take the green flag this next time by, lights are out atop the iRacing pace car. There's going to be 15 laps to go before the finish of this race. Caution laps do count towards the overall lap total, and this league does not have any green-white checkered, so whenever the caution flag comes out, we complete lap 100. That will be the official end to this race, so these drivers are going to have to start making a game plan in their heads of when they're going to have to make that final charge towards the front end of this field if they want to have any shot at winning this race, JR.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you want to be the guy that's leading coming to that white flag. You never know when that caution comes out. We go green here. You see Scott Eckridge getting a big leap on the field.
Yeah, Scott Eckridge jumps up to a huge lead. He's going to slot back down in front of the 55 car, Brian Yazik. He considers going high, but he's going to get a big push here from Adam Jersky in the 71 car on the bottom. Just behind the 71 is the number 6 car. Thomas George did so well on all the restrictor plate racing tracks last season. Don't look now, but on the high side is Michael Krobach getting a big push here by the 26 car of Kevin Bartelt. And just now it comes into the picture the 83 car, Vincent Crow. Krobach falls back. Crow there taking the battle of the Crow versus Krobach show. He and Thomas George going to go up to the high side right now. Just the two of those cars up there. Big wiggle out of the 6 as they come off at turn 4. Now down to the front in the tri-oval. It's still Scott Eckridge at the front end of this field. Leading that bottom line, Adam Jersky goes up to the top, gets a big push here for the number 6 car, Thomas George.
Yeah, Thomas George doing a lot of pushing here. The second half of this race, he's starting to be aggressive. He wants to get to that front. He knows that this is his race. He knows how to do this, and he's wanting to get out front. Of course, he's got that Ford, so that Ford front end does allow you to push a little bit more aggressively than some of the other cars just because it's flatter, and he's making good use of it at the moment.
Yeah, that bottom line really started to flounder through the turns 1 and 2, especially down the back straightaway. Adam Jersky with a big push from Thomas George goes up right now to the front end of this field. Vincent Krobach in third. He's going to get a big push here from Clarence Bonner. They're getting a little bit loose. They're going to go to the high side. Vincent Crow has the opportunity to side draft Thomas George if he so chooses. Just behind those guys on the bottom, Scott Eckridge starts to get up there, and now Clarence Bonner hung out to dry as Brian Yazik goes out from behind him, slots in behind Thomas George. 3 cars up now, the top 99 car there, Clarence Bonner, then the car of Michael Krobach.
Yeah, guys are getting single filed out here. Go ahead, Kenny, sorry.
Well, I was just about to say, I believe Jeff Ward just ran the fastest lap of the race last time by, so we talk about bonus points, and Jeff Ward is definitely a points championship contender, and at the moment he's picked up that bonus.
Single file right now for the first about 9 cars or so. Look at how much these cars are dancing around, Kenny, especially coming off the corner. Is this one of those situations? Are the tires already starting to failure? Is the track right now just hotter than it has been all day?
I think this is more so about just the aggressiveness of the drivers picking up, so they're really trying their hardest to get to the driver in front of them. Some drivers are really getting pushed in and out of these corners, and and again, on the bottom side, some drivers might have a habit of also chasing the car in front of them, which is going to lead to them moving back and forth a little bit more. But drivers are less willing to get out of the gas now, so that's just going to magnify the lack of control when everybody's just so close together.
The first 6 cars, single file on the bottom right now. It's not until you get to the 7th car in line that has a car to his outside. The car to the outside, Kevin Bartelt, the number 26 car. We talked about a lot about him being the hard luck driver of last season. It looked like he was going to get a big push there for the number 9 car, Jeff Ward. We'll see if he can time a run here to get a sizable run down the backstretch. It looks like all those guys in the top line for right now being a little bit timid. They're going to come across the stripe next time by and get the 2 high fives from Barney the Flagman. 10 laps to go.
Yeah, definitely. That outside line's going to have to start being a little more aggressive the next few laps as we get down to 10 to go here, because that inside line, they are staying close together, and Thomas George is continuing to shove Adam Jersky out to the lead here. So it's going to be very hard for that outside line to overcome it if they cannot stay together and start pushing pretty hard here.
Look at the separation, too, from the end of the 55 car, Brian Yazik, back to that number 06 car, William Farmer on the bottom. Kevin Bartelt considered going down there to slot into that, but that gap closed just a little bit too fast before he could get down there. So once again, he's stuck on the high side. He's got Jeff Ward behind him. We'll see just how aggressive Ward's going to get when they come down to the end of this race. Continues to be timid, allows for the cars on the bottom to pass him, refuses to push Kevin for right now.
Yeah, and it's starting to break up even further. Now you just got Kevin and Jeff Ward out there by themselves. Looks like the 18, maybe they got a couple of cars starting to form back up behind them, but some guys starting to move down to that inside lane thinking that that's the place to be here at the end.
Yeah, but Kenny, they're going to get more and more cars on that high side if they continue to see opportunity in it. But it really doesn't matter how many cars you've got up top. It really just depends how big a push you can get from the second car to the first car. And if that second car refuses to push the leader of the top line, that thing's going to go absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, Austin. And also, the top line also needs to pinch the inside line down and get more aggressive about that off the corner. Prevent the inside line from having a good exit off of each corner, which is going to slow them down. Kevin's doing that a little bit, but he's not quite as consistent about it as what I'd like him to be. And you see Jeff Ward kind of bailing on that line for now. Maybe he's going to try to leapfrog ahead of Bartelt and then jump back to the high side here. We'll see.
I feel like he needs to do that if he's going to have any shot of winning. You saw just how timid he was to want to push that 26 car. Scott Eckridge, Brian Yazik now go to the top side. Vincent Crowe sees that in his rearview mirror. He shoots up to the top. Now they're going to hang those first 2 guys in the field on the bottom out to dry. Adam Jersky first in line on the bottom. Then you got Thomas George, and now you can see the entire field is packed back together. Scott Eckridge going to give a big push here to Vincent Crowe towards the front of the field. Brian Yazik just behind Scott Eckridge, doing everything he can to try and push that 70 car further out towards the front. Now you got to ask yourself, when does Scott Eckridge jump out of line? Vincent Crowe is going to be the first car to do that. We'll see just how good a run the 55 car can give the 70 as they come off of turn 4.
Yeah, Eckridge giving Vincent Crowe a huge shot, getting him a little bit loose. That allowed him to get to the inside. Now you've got Yazik pushing Eckridge down the front straightaway here. Everybody getting more and more aggressive. We're coming to almost 5 laps to go here, and business is starting to pick up, guys.
Scott Eckridge led that last lap. He's got the help of the 55 car. Brian Yazik just to his rear end. Up on the top side, it's newcomer Jake Sylvia in the 18 being pushed by another newcomer, the 59 car, Joshua O'Connor. Scott Eckridge goes up there to blunt their momentum, gets a big push here from the 18. Just as soon as he does that, the 83 car, Vincent Crowe, pushes the 55 car, Brian Yazik, all the way to the front. He's clear by a car length.
Yeah, now we have 2 good lines that are racing side by side here. It's going to be interesting where the run comes at which moment, because that's going to dictate who's able to get the win here, assuming that we stay green. Of course, if the caution comes out, we could end under the caution flag, and it just depends on who's out front at that point.
Starting lap number 95, that time by the stripe. They push Scott Eckridge to a huge lead, and just as soon as that happened, Jake Sylvia, Joshua O'Connor bail on the driver in the number 70 car. That looks like Michael Kralbach going up to give Scott Eckridge a huge push as the bottom line is up there. 4 cars pushing each other. They shot Jake Sylvia up out of that groove onto the top side. He makes contact with Scott Eckridge. You'll see how big a push Scott can give him as they come off of turn 4. The first 3 cars right now clear on the bottom.
And guys, the Sylvia and O'Connor, they are both teammates at Apex Sim Sports, so that could have something to do with how well they're working together. We know that Yazik and Ekrich are good friends, albeit they're not exactly, they're not the same make of car, but you are starting to see some friends and some teammates working together out there.
Yeah, well, there's lots of Loud Pedal Motorsports guys at the front end of this field. For right now, Joshua Connor, the leading car on the bottom. Vincent Crow, the leader up top. On the bottom, you've got Brian Yazik trying to give that 59 car a push. Jake Sylvia, the man in the middle. He's the second place car between Scott Eckridge, the third car on the top. First car, Vincent Crow. Drag races that go through turns 3 and 4. This is when guys start to get aggressive. They start pushing in the center of the corner. If you haven't all day, now's the time to start doing that. You got a lot of guys hanging in the back. Jeff Ward continues to just kind of ride around, not pushing anybody.
Yeah, that's typical Jeff Ward. You know, even down toward the end of the race, he'll just be kind of riding around, seeing what's happening and waiting to make his move. And more times than not, he's able to get up front. But guys, we got a caution out on the speedway.
Yeah, yellow flag. This might very well end the race. We'll have to see if we go back green flag racing once again. But if it indeed does finish this way, Vincent Crow would be your winner.
Boy, and what a shame. It's kind of indirectly caused by a lap car getting together with two cars that were out of the lead draft. These guys up at the front, this is actually there's actually two incidents actually that happened, because you have this one, and there was also another one that happened in turn 2 about the same time.
Boy, if this is it, if this is the end of the finish, I'm going to feel like we were kind of robbed here. Things are really starting to get good at the front of the field, and I feel like there's a lot of guys who are just kind of raring to get going. You can see a big old just kerfluffle starting here on the front stretch. Lots of guys, and this, like you mentioned, Kenny, was in sort of that second main pack.
Yeah, and I was really looking to see who was going to be the driver to go through the middle, because the two lines were pretty even up, and what you normally start seeing at the end of these races is someone decides to shoot through the middle and makes things really interesting, but we did not really get a chance to see that. We'll see if we get I don't think we're going to get the one to go here.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if we did. Lights are still on atop the iRacing pace car. The field is going through turns 3 and 4. As it stands right now, Vincent Crow is first, Jake Sylvia second, Joshua O'Connor third, Scott Eckridge in fourth, Brian Yazik fifth, Adam Jersky in sixth, Michael Krobach in seventh, Thomas George in eighth, Will Farmer in ninth, Kevin Bartelt in 10th. So right now, you're looking out the right side here of Vincent Crow's car. He might be running out of fuel here. Thinks about pulling the old Mark Martin. Thinks better of it. So, gonna have to look at the top end of the pace car here to see if it turns its lights off. That'll be the deciding factor if we go back to green, and it looks like they're going to stay on. So the race is going to finish under caution. Maybe say we take a quick commercial break and come back just as this thing finishes up to go through the final order. Stay with me. We'll probably take a quick break and rejoin you guys on lap 100 to see Vincent Crow cross the start-finish line and take his win here.
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing.
Welcome back to the Team Watson Racing Setups 250 from Daytona International Speedway. You're watching the Virtual Grip Network. Caution flew with about 3 laps to go in the Great American Race for the Pretty Good Racing League. And without green-white checkered finishes for this league, that means the race is officially going to end as soon as Vincent Crowe comes through turns 3 and 4, following behind the iRacing pace car to take the checkered flag and take the W here today. And guys, talked about it at the top of the show. This is that one race that everybody wants to win. You heard Denny Hamlin talk about giving up 10 more race wins for another Daytona 500 victory, and a lot of other drivers. There's not much that drivers won't give up to get a win here at Daytona.
Yeah, I mean, it's a special place, and it's so difficult to win here in anything. It's really, I'm not going to say it all comes down to luck, but it just comes down to a lot of good circumstances, but there's skill involved with it for sure to put yourself in that right position. But a lot of times, put yourself in a good position, but it doesn't always play out. As looks like Vincent Crowe is here to take that checkered flag.
Yeah, Barney the flagman changing out the yellow flag for a checkered one as he follows behind the iRacing pace car. Vincent Crowe is going to take the win here at Daytona International Speedway in the Team Watson Racing Setups 250. And how about that, guys? A win here for the Team Watson Racing driver of Vincent Crowe. Congratulations to Vincent. You're going to see the field pass him as the drivers circle back around to go down the pit road here and finish off the race as the iRacing pace car kind of just is going to procession them around for the rest of the race here. We'll go ahead and start reading you through the finishing order as the cars continue to cross the start-finish line. So Vincent Crowe taking the victory here. Jake Sylvia and Joshua O'Connor, those two teammates finishing on the podium in their first time out here in the Pretty Good Racing League. Scott Eckrich, the Season 1 champion from last season, finishes in 4th, followed by Brian Yazik in 5th. Adam Jersky comes home in 6th position, followed by Michael Krobach in 7th. Thomas George, the defending series champion, is going to come home in 8th, followed by Will Farmer in 9th. Kevin Bartel, the man who had so much bad luck last year, looks to turn that around. Has some pretty good luck this year to bring home his first top 10 in a while. First top 10 this season for Kevin, obviously. Clarence Bonner finishes in 11th, followed by Jeff Ward, Season 2 champion last season, finishes in 12th, followed by William Farmer in 13th. Tyler Graff is going to finish in 14th, followed by Ed Fowler in 15th. Mike Rasmus is going to come home in 16th, followed by Shane Parrish in 17th. Cody Dempster crosses the line in 18th, followed by Matthew Wheeler in 19th. Adam Hoagland finishes in 20th, JR.
Yeah, coming home in 21st tonight, we have Ron Hart. 22nd is Aiden Gretz. 23rd, Brian Greenlee. Finishing 24th tonight is Mark Herzog. 25th is Adam Blattle. 26th place is Justin Rector. Our pole sitter, Angel Jamie, he'll finish 27th tonight. Finishing 28th is Terry Marinero. 29th place is Doug Roth. 30th place, Ryan Rose. G.D. Brown will come home in 31st place. Isaiah Dupre behind him in 32nd. 33rd place will go to Creighton Carter tonight. 35th is Jason Galvin. Chris Stouffer coming home in 35th place. 36th is Devin Cannon, a guy we saw up front for a lot of the race tonight. Chris Lanini finishing behind him in 37th. 38th place is Kamanyao Nishihu. Norm Pelletier will finish in 39th. Joe Branch will come home in 40th. Woody Mahan 41st. Joe Hassert comes home in 42nd place. Brady Cure will finish 43rd. Safe Ferries will finish in 44th place. Finishing in 45th is Tim Weinkoff, and rounding out your field in tonight's race in 46th place should be your pole sitter next week will be Alex Gretz.
Thanks, JR. We'll take a moment here to talk to our big winner, the man who joined us in the booth for a couple races last year, Vincent. Being a Team Watson Racing driver, of course, your car, adorned by their name, to win this race has got to be pretty special, but not just that, it's a win at Daytona, man.
The script was in from the beginning. I started 36 and I didn't care. I was going to the front. And, you know, when I ran the Daytona 500 in the NIS, everyone was playing it so safe and so cool, and all I wanted to do was race. So I went into this race and said, I'm going to race, and if I finish, I finish, and if I don't, I don't. But Team Watson Racing has been a total game changer, man. Being part of them has been awesome. We've really built a really awesome culture there. So obviously I thank them, James and Brian, and the team that makes it happen, and Kenny Coppola's black magic that he does to these cars to make them so fast. I know this is a fixed league, but for anyone who runs officials, go teamwatsonracing.com. Buy yourself Kenny Coppola's magic for Fontana. Get yourself subscribed, because we're winning trophies this week, and I started it off, even if though it was Daytona, with a win.
Certainly, Vincent, you talk about being you want to be aggressive and race in this race. What was going through your mind when that caution flag flew there with about 3 laps to go? Did you know the race was over? You really hoping you wouldn't see the lights on top of the iRacing pace car go out and trigger maybe a 1-lap shootout to the checkered?
No, that's always the big fear. I've lost a couple of races that way. I haven't won one that way, so when the caution came out, I knew the caution coming out would solidify a big portion of the finish. So I just, once you got to like 4 or 5 laps to go, you have to go. That entire last run, I didn't know who my teammate was. I found my teammate with Apex on the outside. I guess my pseudo teammate, I should say, on the outside, and Jake Silva. And I was like, oh, hey, I recognize that car, and jumped in front of him, and he followed me and pushed me to the lead, and then caution came out at the perfect time. But I really appreciate those guys running mane and tail paints. Obviously, without being my family business, that's something I take to heart, and I'm running Team Watson this week, so obviously just a ton of fun. I can't believe I won. I still can't believe I won. I don't win these races.
Yeah, I was going to talk about it. This is your first ever win here in the Pretty Good Racing League, at least that we've seen live on the Virtual Group Network. But Vincent, who do you have to thank before we let you go for this victory tonight?
Jake Silver for sure. Josh, who put on a fantastic show. All my pseudo Apex teammates with their mane and tail paints and their Patriot paints. Patriot Marketing, obviously, they do an incredible job, as does their like side project and drivertees.com. Go get yourself a driver tee right now. Check out what they have. Inquire about getting some for yourself. And obviously Team Watson Racing, who has kind of become my family over there. And like I said, go to teamwatsonracing.com, get yourself some Kenny Coppola Black Magic in this next-gen car, and go get yourself some trophies.
Certainly. Well, Vincent, congratulations on your win. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, man.
Thank you, guys. I hope I get to keep interviewing down here and not going up there in the broadcast booth this year.
Certainly. See you, buddy. That was Vincent Crow, the big winner here tonight. And JR, I think you've caught up with Jake Sylvia, the man who came home in second place.
Did I have, Austin? Hey, Jake, congratulations on that second place run, man. You came all the way back from a 44th place starting grid, almost the last row. Talk us through your race. How'd you get up there, man?
It was really just patience. I got involved in 2 of the wrecks early on. Just did my best to not get hit too hard. These things are pretty much tanks around here. I think I had about 1 minute and 50 seconds of damage to start in the first one and about 35 in the second one. But once you fix it and you stay with the pack, you're fine. I don't know. This is a different vibe from the official stuff all week. Last week is just kind of line up with your teammates and anybody we're working with and try to get up to the front. There wasn't too much aggressive blocking or anything stupid like that going on. So it was fun. I appreciate everybody driving, with their head on straight somewhat.
Yeah, you mentioned having the damage in the race. We talked about it during the broadcast booth, how much damage these cars can take and still be in pretty good shape. Your car obviously having some of that damage, but other than that, being able to get back up through the field, talk us about some of the aggressiveness that we saw up toward the front. There was a lot of hard pushing, a lot of lane changing happening, especially in the second half of this race. Was any of that concerning to you, or is that kind of what you were looking for to get yourself to the front?
There was a couple of guys I didn't really enjoy racing around when they were doing it, but majority of the guys up inside of the top 10 that were, able to take a good push and able to give a good push, it was okay with me. If you're able to do it and you're able to give it and you're able to take it, then there's never really any problems. We had that problem with the lap car that kind of took out a majority of the front runners a little bit past halfway, and I feel like that kind of scared everybody into running more single file until we got to those last 10, which I wasn't really too much a fan of because you really couldn't make too many moves. So that last yellow we had before the one that ended the race really worked out because nobody was good on fuel. So pit strategy would have came into play, which to me I feel like is not the best way to end a good race like that, having a bunch of spread out packs. So I enjoyed being able to run aggressive and had guys to work with, had guys to switch lanes and throw blocks and a lot of aggressive pushes. Some of the times we was 4 cars lined up, everybody full throttle into each other, we were able to keep it together. So I was happy with that.
Absolutely, man. Well, you did it right here tonight. Just coming up 1 place short, but got to be happy with that 2nd place run. Before we let you go, Jake, anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, I want to thank Grant Brown and Cody Dempster. They're the ones that got me in. Cody paid my way in. He's the one that got me here. I want to thank everybody that puts this on. There was amazing racing tonight. And then I want to, big shout out to Vincent and Joshua. We were all just doing our thing, trying to work with each other that last half of the race, and we definitely got it done.
Well, Jake, congratulations on that 2nd place run. Look forward to seeing you the rest of this season, man.
Yep, thank you.
And guys, that was Jake Sylvia, our 2nd place runner tonight. With that, I believe Kenny has now caught up with our 3rd place finisher, Joshua O'Connor.
I have, and Apex Sim Sport has added a few fast drivers this season, one of them being Jake Sylvia, but another one being Joshua O'Connor. Josh, talk about your race. How much did the teamwork come into perspective here? Because you guys have a lot of Apex Sim Sport drivers, some pseudo teammates as well. How much were you guys working together out there?
I think it was a pretty good race. I think we communicated for a majority of it. When we started off the race, it was kind of that decision on what we want to do with this many cars, because the amount of chaos is kind of astronomical at that point with 45, 46 cars in the field. And we it was the kind of one of those, hey, I'll see you at the end, and we just kind of worked through it as we went. Whatever communication we could get.
Sorry about that. We saw you dodge a few wrecks. You took a trip through the grass. You spun out at one point, but we talked about that these cars have been pretty tough, and it looked like you stayed relatively clean. But did that affect maybe how you raced for parts of the event? Because we saw you kind of not appear until later in the race. You kind of tried to play it safe anyway, in the middle or towards the back of the pack at first.
I think I was just trying to survive for the most part, man. I just wanted to kind of sit back, and I'm new to the field. I don't know a lot of the drivers. You don't know what to expect. It's just kind of taking what you can get each lap and figure out who you can work with through the field.
And now next week, or the next race for PGRL, is going to be at Auto Club Speedway. Totally different animal from Daytona. What are your thoughts on that place?
If there's as many drivers, that one's going to be even tougher, because if there's not as many cautions, like incidents like today, the front of the field is definitely going to get away, but you're going to have more lap traffic that you're going to run into more often, and if that creates complications, it's going to change the whole race. So we're going to look forward to taking advantage of chaos. That's all we can really do.
Right, and the draft does come into play, at least on the restarts there, so that should make things interesting. But who do you have to thank for the 3rd place run today in your debut?
My teammates with Apex, especially Jake and oh my god, I'm having such a brain fart at the moment. I'm sorry. Made it tell, Patriot, everybody, you guys for the broadcast, and the league for the host and stuff. Michael for the invite. It's been absolutely awesome. I've enjoyed this race, even with all the wild mishaps and things going on and dodging cars. So and my wife, she lets you play these things. So.
That was Joshua O'Connor with the 3rd place run today, and we'll see you next week, Josh.
Thank you. You guys have a great night.
Throw it back upstairs to Austin for some final thoughts.
Yeah, well, we'll go ahead and thank all 3 of our podium finishers for taking the time to talk to us. We always appreciate that. We especially want to thank Team Watson Racing Setups, covering the high banks of Daytona to the high mountaintops of the Washington Hill Climb. Team Watson Racing Setups has you covered for any on-demand setup needs. Go to teamwatsonracing.com and see what the fuss is about. We'll be back next Tuesday, February 28th at Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, the next broadcast here on the Virtual Group Network, as always, for Friday nights is the Bootleg Racing League's Dirt Street Stock Series. You can catch them as they take on Volusia Speedway this Friday at 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Guys, it was an exciting race from start to finish, but especially there at the end, you could really tell business was picking up.
Yeah, for sure, Austin. You know, PGRL, we know what to expect from these guys, but this season we've got a lot of new faces in this league. We had a huge car count. These new guys, they brought a lot of excitement, a lot of unpredictability, but ultimately toward the end of that race, we started to see the familiar faces that we always do up toward the front. We had Vincent Crowe winning the race, Scott Eckridge, a past champion, Brian Yazik, a near champion, Adam Jersky, Krobach, Thomas George. Those guys were all up in the top 10. So it's going to be interesting moving forward to tracks other than these super speedways to see if that familiarity continues to be the guys that you're going to have to chase and try to beat each and every week.
Yeah, I'm sure that the drivers who have been perennial contenders are really happy that they could come away with pretty darn good finishes for all of them. Some of them got stage points as well. But for everybody, you know, this is kind of a good initiation to start the season. But really, the first week that we're going to find out who true contenders are for the championship will be next week at California, where it's going to be a little more destiny in your own hands. As far as how you drive the car and how fast you're going to be around there. You're going to have drafting on the restarts, but it is going to come down to who will be the fastest and who can really put a full race together at Fontana. So I'm excited to see that.
This has been a pretty good production of the Virtual Grip Network. On behalf of myself, Austin Belke, my boothmates J.R. Shepard and Kenny Kibbe, our director Ryan Seneker, and producer Lowell Jewell, thank you so much for watching, and have a good night.